So hey, welcome back to the 10-10 movement. You're here with myself, Tony V. And today we are on the 10-part series of Saving Planet Earth. And today we're on Saving Planet Earth 8. So what is Saving Planet Earth 8 all about? Well, in some of the previous episodes, you've seen me talk about the 4 attributes, should we call it, to our humanness. That is our physical self, our emotional self, our more mental self, and today we're talking about the final part of the 4 aspects, which is your more spiritual self. Now, the word spiritual, of course, is very, very loaded. Many people give this word different meanings. Some people think it's a religious thing. Some people, discard it completely as woo-woo and what have you, and there's, of course, many people in between. So what do I mean about when I use the word spiritual or the word spirit? So I always ask the question, where is your soul? Who are you really? Where does that part of us come? How does that all work? These are many, basically, scientifically unanswered questions. We know very little about this part of ourselves, how it operates, where it comes from, where it goes when we die. Is it immortal? Isn't it immortal? You'll have your beliefs based on either your experiences or your learnings. In other words, what you've been given intellectually and taken and made into a belief. So, I'm going to do my best to share with you my take on spirituality and in a very few minutes share with you how you can be a part of Saving Planet Earth by in fact learning a bit about this part of yourself. So, for me, your spirit sort of comes on a journey and takes, over this physical body. Some people argue that it enters your body when it's in the womb, somewhere around the 3-month mark. Again, different people say different things, but let's just take it that is actually true. Then, as a baby, we're born into planet Earth, and that part of us, that soul that's taken root in our physical being, how would it be? It's not we're a physical body with a spirit. Actually, how would it be we're more of a soul with a physical body having a more physical experience? In other words, we've come to planet Earth, our spirit, our soul has taken over this being, this body, so that we have an experience of the physical, emotional and mental world, which the spirit world actually is cut off from. So when we come here, the truth is that we, a spiritual part of us, gets cut off from where it came from. So if we think about it, we sort of land here in the physical body, emotional body, mental body, but actually our spiritual body tends to get what I call switched off instead of being switched on. So think of it, I often use the example of the Lunar landing module, which seems a bit weird. But you know what happened with the Lunar landing module? It was connected to the ship that went round the moon, and this little part of it came off and landed on the moon. And one person stayed in the capsule that was going round and round, and 2 people went down to the surface of the moon. Now, when they then took off again, they then reattached themselves to that, satellite going around the moon, and then it flew back to planet Earth. So think of it a little bit like that. Think of our spirit out in space, and then it comes down, like in the Lunar landing module, and takes this body. Now, obviously, one vital part of the success of the lunar landings was that these 2 ships and the bigger part, the bit on Earth, stayed in connection with each other. So they had a communication channel. The LEM, as it was known, the landing module, always was able to talk to the bit going round out in space around the moon, and they could all talk to people on planet Earth. So imagine for a moment, we are like the LEM, the Lunar Landing Module, and we've landed on planet Earth, but basically we've lost communications with the mothership and everything else, that other part of it. So it's part of, us taking the human body, it's a part of the experience is to lose connection. But once we've lost that connection, we then get into our former years, our early years, where we get our brain part of us, our physical, mental and emotional part of us gets programmed and filled up with stuff whilst we've forgotten where we came from. Now, it's said by many that where we come from, there is all knowledge. Everything we need to know is here, up here, in the sort of, the ship that's going around or in the universe, yeah? But because we're cut off from that knowledge and that wisdom. So we start learning things, like going to school and learning things that fill up our brain, but it does it in a way that has us being not very efficient, not very effective in doing so. And in doing that, with humans being on their journey and using their more intellect only, we've gone on this journey of like the sciences, the technology, all of that sort of stuff is using this intellectual part of us, whilst really being cut off from the more true part of us, where all knowledge and wisdom lives. So that's sort of my take on spiritual. So my thing would be, is if we've got this switch and it's switched off, what would happen if we switched it back on? Now, I can just say from my own personal journey of 20 years worth of personal and spiritual development, that learning first that we've got a switch, because if we've forgotten that we've got a switch, if we were to remember that we have a switch, and we start the process of learning how to turn that switch on, and maybe if there was a dial where you could turn it up, you could connect yourself to a part of yourself which is at the moment laying latent. And how would it be that in that part of us, this connected part of us, lays many, many answers to us getting our experience on planet Earth to be a much better deal. So, as I always ask, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being you and your life are already living at a 10 out of 10, and 0 is actually my life's a complete and utter mess right now, what number would you give yourself? So just think of a number, hold it in your head, and now think, as we think of planet Earth and we think of the state of planet Earth right now, 10 would be she's doing great, there's no problems here at all, and 0 is actually she's in like dire trouble at the moment. So let's have a number for that. So think about your number for your own personal self, and then think of your number for planet Earth. I can tell you that the average number for the health of planet Earth, when I ask this question of people, is a 4 out of 10. So that is a huge gap, and we're way nearer to 0 than we are to 10. And it's sort of argued that, humans being cut off from this more wise part of us has led us to run patterns of behaviour that are in fact endangering planet Earth right now. So just imagine for a moment, we could switch ourselves back on, learn things that we have forgotten about, and so started to behave in a new, more empowered way. Could it be that we start to help save planet Earth by doing things and operating and acting in a completely different way? So what is your personal score right now? Now look, I always argue 8 is great. 8, you're doing great. And of course, there's a little bit of growth. What would a 9 look like? What would a 10 look like? But if you're like a 7 or a less, could it be that it's because this switch is so switched off that we're left just feeling like we're cut off? Loneliness is one of the biggest things that we have. And we tend to isolate ourselves, individualize ourselves, when actually, when we switch the switch back on, what we learn is that actually we're meant to operate as more of a collective. Whereas at the moment, the human race is tending to operate in a more individualistic way. So all I would do is encourage you, there's lots of videos on the 10-10 movement, to see if you could learn a little bit more about this switch, find out where it is, and see if you could practice on yourself turning this switch back on. I promise you, when you find that switch, your score, whatever you gave me, if you've got that switch switched off, whatever number you thought of, that number will go up. It will go up massively. You'll start to feel completely differently. The average score for the humans, when I ask them for their life score, is about 5.5 to 6. It's sort of around that area. So look, it's a little bit better than what we're giving planet Earth, but still 5.5 or 6 is very, very low. That means the gap between that number and 10 for each of us as a human is quite low. And how would it be that in that gap, we need to develop ourselves personally and we perhaps need to learn to, pop in some time into learning about ourselves spiritually so that we could find and discover that switch inside of ourselves, switch ourselves back on so that we're in connection back with the universe and from whence we came. And if there was a dial we could turn up the volume, then maybe, just maybe, collectively, if enough people did that, then things on planet Earth will get better. And the score we give in planet Earth, because we behave collectively quite differently, would indeed start to rise. So really that's it from Saving Planet Earth 8. Next week I'll be back with Planet Earth number 9. If it's your first time to the channel, big welcome to you. Please do remember to hit the subscription button and the notification bell so that you get informed every time we do a new video and it goes up there. Just so that you know, we do, me and my beautiful wife do a live video every Saturday night on YouTube, 7 o'clock. Can pick it up on Tony V and Nikki V on Facebook as well. And that primarily is about our interpersonal relationships, our intimate relationship life. So we take questions, we have a subject, what have you. It's live, 7 o'clock every Saturday for 1 hour. You get to chat to us on those channels. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I'm going to pop a couple of links up here to some other Saving Planet Earth videos. So if you click those, you can learn a little bit more about the other planes of existence and some of the other stuff that I've been talking about in this series. And I'll see you back next week for Saving Planet Earth 9. We're nearly at the end of the series. So from me, Tony V, bye for now.